Hey everybody, welcome back to Fretboard Yoga. Today I'm just going to give you a quick explanation of the notes on the fretboard. So it's really important to learn the notes as you go to be able to describe what scale you're playing or what chord or what notes are in the chord or the scale. And it just helps you be a better musician in general. So we're going to just talk about the strings. I've done this before in a couple other lessons. And so my little saying that I came up with is everybody goes dancing after eating. So those are just the open strings. So E, B, G, D, A, E. So knowing those starting notes is the key to learning the notes on the fretboard. We're going to start just with our sixth string, the one that's closest to your face, and just go ahead and play that note. That's an E. And so if E were a fret and you were to press down on it, which you're not going to because there's no fret for the E because it's just kind of this open string, right? If it were a fret though, it would be right next to the F, which is the first fret of the sixth string. And so E and F are together. And so if you've ever seen a piano keyboard, the white keys kind of go with the black keys in between. And all of them have a black key in between them except for E and F and B and C. So E and F are together. And then the only other one that has a half step in between is the B and the C. So E and F and B and C are together. So on the piano keyboard, you don't have a black key in between both of those. All the rest skip a fret in between them. So we have F, and then you skip a fret to G, just going through the alphabet, and then it starts over again on the A, which is your fifth fret. And then you go up to B, whole step to B, half step to C, because the B and C are together, and then whole step to D, whole step to E, and then if you wanted to keep going, you just go half step to F. So E and F are together. So let's do that together. And so you're going to put your hand on the fretboard just like I am and tell yourself the notes as we're going up. So here's E, then half step to F, skip a fret to G, another whole step to A, starts over again in the alphabet, B, whole step, half step to C, whole step to D, whole step to E, and you can keep going F, G, A if you want to keep going way up your fretboard. And so that is the E string. On either side of those two whole tones is an F sharp or a G flat. So in the middle of those two is what would normally be the black key on the piano keyboard. So we have F, that could be F sharp or G flat, depending on what key we're in. And we're going to talk about keys and all that stuff later, but right now we're just getting the sense of what notes are on the fretboard. Test your knowledge now. This is really helpful. So find an A on the sixth string. So I'll show you how to do that. You're just going to count up again. So we have E, half step to F, whole step to G, and then there's your A. Here's another test. Where is the C on the sixth string? So go ahead and count up, find your A maybe that you just did, and then go up. So if you are on the 8th fret, that's where your C is. Maybe here's a little harder one. What about G sharp? Can you find G sharp? So you find your G, which is that 3rd fret, and then you just go up a half step. So that's the best way to memorize the notes on the fretboard. Kind of test yourself out. Just pick a random letter, and then you'll start to get that sense of where those notes are. So now we're going to do the same thing on the A string. If A were a fret, because A and B are a whole step apart, you're going to skip a fret in between those. And then B and C are together, so C is the next fret up. C, whole step to D. Say these with me if you can. Here's our E, half step to F, whole step to G, and a whole step to A. On this 12th fret is where we start over again. So this is an A, this is an A, this is an E, this is an E. On that 12th fret, that's where you normally would have 2 dots if you have dots on your fretboard. And so you can always tell where that is. Yeah, let's do the same thing on the D string. So we have D, and then if D were a fret, of course, we're going to skip a fret to the E, which is your 2nd fret, and E and F are together, so F, whole step to G, yep, whole step to A, whole step to B, half step to C, and then starts over again on D. So test out your knowledge, maybe take a little break and see if you can just say a random note and see if you could figure it out. And don't worry if you don't have these totally memorized by the end of this lesson. It's just good to get the sense of where these are. Now, this isn't the major scale. A lot of people think that when we're doing this whole thing, we're doing the major scale. And yes, they are the notes of the C major scale, because there's no sharps or flats in the C major scale when we're just doing these notes that aren't sharp or flat. Technically, we're not doing a scale, we're just learning the notes. So now let's do the notes on the G string. So we have G, whole step to A, whole step to B, half step to C, D, whole step to E, half step to F, and then G again. Right, and then here's our B string. B and C are together, so half step to C, which is your 1st fret, whole step to D, whole step to E, half step to F, G. See how you're doing. Tell me the notes. And you could keep going there. Remember, B and C are together. We're starting out on B, and then C would be right there next to it. All right, test yourself out. Then we're going to do the last string, which is E. So this is exactly the same as our 6th string. So we have E, and then F, half step, whole step to G, whole step to A, then B, half step to C, D, and then E again. So how'd you do? Can you get a sense of where those notes are? Go ahead and test yourself out again. Let's pick the 5th string. Can you tell me where D is? So our 5th string starts with an A, right? And then just walk up. We have A, B, C, half step apart, and then D is right there. Yeah. So you can do that same thing, maybe put out some flashcards and you could say G, all the notes on the G, and then have on another flashcard what note name, if you want to do it like that. Or the more you play, you're just going to memorize these notes anyway. I suggest just play some chords and scales and tell yourself the names of the notes as you go. Don't worry if you don't memorize these all at once. It takes a little while to have them down because there's a lot of notes in there. And so don't beat yourself up if that doesn't happen right away. And go on to any of the lessons and you can practice with saying the notes as you go through. If you go to fretboardyoga.com and click on subscribe, underneath tablature, you can download this handy-dandy fretboard note chart that I made, along with all the other tablature and charts that we use in these classes for just $5 a month. And there are some other options for subscribing there, like video song lessons from my archives, music theory, and lessons on other instruments. So please consider subscribing so that I can continue to make these lessons free and available for everyone. Thanks so much for joining me, and go ahead and check out another Fretboard Yoga lesson.